Hi everybody, Breanne here from Pigment, and today I'm going to be coloring a page from one of our new books called Sketchy Portraits. So I'm going to be touching base on how to do skin tone, how to kind of mix and blend skin tone. And I'm also going to be just touching base on maybe doing interesting backgrounds, layered backgrounds, stuff like that. So this might be in two parts. I'm not sure how long it's going to take yet, but it might be one part. We'll see how things progress. I also wanted to show you that I flipped my controls. If anybody's watched any of my previous videos, I've had issues with my elbow constantly hitting the eraser button, so it might be a little bit awkward for me typing this way, but I think for recording purposes it is better. If anyone's interested on how to do that, you just tap these three little icons up here and simply hit flip controls or hide controls. It's up to you. I didn't hide them because I'm gonna have to constantly, I use so much different stuff that I'll be constantly hitting it to open and close, open and close, open and close. So I thought the easiest thing I could do was flip them, so I'm not constantly rubbing my arm and hitting the eraser button on accident and whatnot. Okay, so that all being said, I missed doing this. Nice to be back. Nice to be making some tutorials again. And if anyone ever has anything that they would like to see, please don't be shy and comment on the bottom in the video, and we'll do our best to answer those requests for you. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to just get kind of a background color going here. I'm not 100%, I know I'm going to do some kind of effect back there. I don't want it to be too dark and cover up my portrait outlines. I do somewhat want it to be black. So bear with me while I get used to my controls being over on that side, as I am a right-handed person. Okay. I just figured that at least this way, I'm not constantly making mistakes or rubbing my hand the wrong way. So I'm just gonna do the outline in the back in black, but I do want to lighten it up around the portrait a bit. I don't want to lose my lines. So I'm just going to very gently kind of rub an outline here. I'm on my airbrush tool, and I just find I have more control filling this way. If I want to have various depths, like I want it darker in one spot but not in another, then I can get that with airbrush. If you just use the fill, which also comes in handy, it just kind of blocks everything, and then it's a little bit harder to see what you're doing, but whatever works easiest for you. So I'm just kind of lightening more in layers, around her head. This is the first time I've actually ever colored with the controls reversed. Not that it's that, like, they're still in the same place and easy to find. It's just I'm always used to tapping over here. But I'm sure it'll make for less mistakes. That's why I did it. We'll try it out. I'm just creating like a subtle aura. I might even make it a little bit bluish. She's wearing a toque, so outside. Just a blend. Kind of get it in there. Cold colors mixing. I just kind of want the hint of the blue though. I don't want it to take over. can always touch this up later as well. Just want to get my colors somewhat in place so when I do go to do something with the background, I'm not coloring over all the progress that I made in the center with her. So I'm just gonna leave it as is right now. I think it's okay for the moment anyway. Okay, just kind of giving it a layered halo look. This was actually a new palette that was released before the holidays too, called Golden Midnight. I love this palette. I love the variations of blues and then the contrasting colors. It's almost New Year's Eve type colors. I really, really like this palette. So now I'm going to actually use my Summer Essence. That one was actually a newer palette as well, made in the summertime. I really like using this color for my base skin tone. I just find that it's a nice variation. I'm gonna increase my opacity there. Up a little bit. So I'm not worried about going outside the lines. I'm gonna be going over and doing the hair and the toque and her clothing after. So just want to get this color down thick, and I'm actually gonna deepen up the color on the scale to do some shading. It doesn't have to be perfect because you can always blend it out after, as long as you get the colors in there. Lots of times I color match and blend back and forth, but I do want shading around the eyes, the cheekbones, around the nose, lip line, under the lip. I'm not like a fanatic on getting it perfect right away because I always go back and blend after. I just like getting a good variation of colors in the skin tone, and then I blend them out evenly so they kind of make for varied skin tone. And you'll see what I mean when I start doing a couple more layers. So like if I take this same color that I'm using, lots of times I'll use the same color and I'll go to the darker end of the spectrum for shading, and then I'll go to the lighter end of the spectrum for highlighting. And I do outsource other colors as well, but I find that's a good base to get started. I want to add some shape to the nose because the nose is relatively, I wouldn't say shapeless, but it does need some definition. So I'm just going to add a light kind of highlight to the nose. Kind of blend it with the color around it after. Highlight under the eyes, the ball of the chin, the forehead, and I'm just pressing super light. I'm not pressing hard at all. You can get some of that white in your eye with that lighter cream color. I don't recommend actually using white for the eye. Use an off-white, because if you look at the human eye, if you're trying to make a realistic portrait, our eyes aren't actually white. They're variation of different shades of white. So I'm just going to use this kind of plummy purple and see if I can use that for a cheeky bone color and under the nose a little bit. Like I said, it doesn't look blended right now, and that's okay. It will when I'm done. Everything will be blended and even. And skin for me is a process, and it takes a while. I don't rush skin. It's actually probably my absolute favorite thing to color is portraits. I don't think that's too much of a secret for anyone who knows me. I do a lot of portraits. If you on my Instagram, pretty much almost all my colorings are portraits or portrait related. I do love coloring other stuff. It's just I really love working on skin. It's probably what I kind of go for is fantasy portrait. So I'm just kind of adding, see how I'm getting like, I haven't even blended yet. And you see how I'm just getting like this nice kind of look going? Well, I am kind of blending in a way, but I haven't done my big blending yet. And you can always go back to the regular color to blend is what I'm doing right now. And another thing that I do to blend is I will, how did I end up hitting that from over there? I will tap here and color match, hold on. So I color match that color on the outer edge of where the new color begins. And then I just kind of lightly blend. You're gonna want your opacity down and your brush size up a bit. And you just kind of blend very lightly those colors out. And that is the biggest trick that I use for blending when coloring in Pigment. Is I color match where the variations of color kind of separate, and then I go in and then I blend them gently, very, very, very gently. I can't stress that enough. If you press hard, you're gonna get harsh lines and it's not gonna look natural. And if you find you've lost some color, don't be afraid to work it in and put more in there. It happens sometimes when you're blending. You lose a little bit of that color that you wanted. So don't be afraid to put it back in. And you can also source out other colors. If you want a deeper red, which I kind of want her cheekbones to be pretty rosy. She's wearing a toque, she's outside. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And you can see it kind of gets blotchy a little bit, but that's okay because like I said, we're gonna blend it out. So I'm gonna go here again, and then I'm gonna bring up my brush, or bring down my brush size, sorry, and bring up my opacity a bit this time, just to smooth out a little bit of that blotchiness. You don't want the blush line too close to the eye. Think about when you're doing your makeup, ladies, how you wear your blush on your face. That should be very similar to when you're doing portraits. If the cheeks look too red, don't be afraid to tone it down a bit. You just lightly brush over top with one of the face colors that you color matched with. And you see how you get that nice blended look. And I go back and forth with it for a bit. For now, I think it's looking all right. And don't be afraid to zoom in, because then you can really see what's going on with your piece. And if you want, the easiest thing for skin palettes too is while you're blending, you're kind of making all these new colors by color matching. And a really good feature is going to your recent colors and all those colors pop up. So that's pretty much all the colors that I've put into her skin so far. So very easily to access again and to get back in there and use those colors if you're not sure what to grab next, because it's already in her skin, it's already gonna match. I'm just trying to create kind of natural underlines lines to the eyes, natural creases. So I'm just shading them ever so gently. I think probably the best tool that you can use for skin, I mean, you can use other ones and you will definitely get a nice effect. But for realism, I think the best tool that you can use, personally from my experience, would be the airbrush tool. Because it's easy to blend all the colors from the skin together to get that natural look that you're going for. Now, when I do skin, I also like to do highlights under the brow. Sometimes it's dramatic and sometimes it's not. It really depends on the piece that I'm doing. So I'm just gonna get my highlight in there. It's not gonna be too dramatic on her for this piece, but you're definitely gonna notice it. It just kind of gives that nice lift to the brow. And another thing that I like to do is I like to kind of add a light highlight around the mouth line. I have to play with my opacity and brush size so I get the right look that I'm going for. I don't press hard pretty much the whole time I'm doing any facial features. I do press light. And then I also like to do a nice highlight on the nose. And another tool that I use for this, so let's say I make it a little bit dark. Let's say I go like, press a little bit harder, and I make it a little bit darker. So let's say I want it to be dark, but I'm finding it a little bit too dark. A little trick that I do is I will go to my tools and I'll go down to my blur. You have to be careful with the blur amount when you're doing portraits or it will look blotchy, but you can just go over it and it really is a great tool for blending skin. You can use it on the cheekbones to kind of blur out the color, kind of make it fade a little bit into the skin so it all kind of goes together. On the nose, under the eye even, or the eyeshadow rather. It's a really, really great tool to use. And then I would go back to my airbrush. And if I hadn't, sometimes blur can leave some lines. That's the only kind of thing. So if you want to, you can just go and smooth those out with the airbrush. So it's a lot of working back and forth until you're satisfied with the look that you're getting for the skin. It does take a while. It's not something I recommend anyone rushing. On a portrait, sometimes it takes me a very long time. I try to do it in steps when I do these kinds of tutorials. I try not to take too long, but to get my points across for helping you guys. But sometimes when I'm doing it, like let's say on my own time, sometimes it can be very time consuming, and I don't mind because I'm always learning and trying new blending techniques, and that's what's allowed me to figure out how I like to do things. See, I went too far and I'm getting these rings that I don't like, so I'm gonna go back a couple of steps here to before I used my blur. I'm not gonna use my blur over here because it's creating rings, and by trying to fix it, but it is a really great tool to use. It just, you got to be kind of careful where you do use it. It really works well on highlights. Highlighting is probably the best thing that you could use it for, blending like the nose, stuff like that. It's the best for that by far. Just trying to show you different techniques and different processes that I go through when I'm doing a portrait. So I'm not just fancying it up and making it look super, you know, simple. It does take time, and it's a process to get that realistic, somewhat realistic coloring anyway. Why did I keep on getting undo? I'm not even hitting undo. I'm blending the nose. You really want to get some shape into the nose. A lot of times in grayscales, you'll see that around the creases of the nose, it'll usually be a little bit darker, and under the base of the nose. So just getting that in there will definitely create a little bit of shape. You don't have to make it super dark, and you'll probably want to blend it. So I made the dark outline. Now I'm blending it back a little bit. And you don't want that line to look really dominant either. The line by the nose is what I'm talking about. You want it to kind of be subtle, but there. Now I'm gonna go back to my original skin color and just kind of very lightly blend some of this stuff out. I'm trying to make natural skin, so I don't want it to be too... Nothing should really stand out. Everything should blend together. So if you're having issues and you find you have a lot of darkness everywhere, go back to your original color, and then look, you see I have the kiss of blush now. My nose isn't looking so dark, but I still have the shading. And that's what I meant by it's gonna look dark, but then I go back and blend, and then you get this natural looking skin tone. So it's a process of mixing all these colors together. I'm actually pretty happy with the skin tone right now. I'm just gonna add a little bit more darkness just under the neck a little bit for some shading. Again, I go to the original color that I chose for the skin and I just kind of blend it out because I don't want harsh lines, I want natural. And if you're gonna do realistic shading, a recommendation I can use or tell you that I've learned from other artists and other tutorials is don't use a dark, harsh black right off the bat. Like using a brown or a darker gray or even a lighter gray for shading is much more natural looking and it's much more complementary. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and do a little bit of some eyeshadow here, get a bit darker. I love this color. I use it for a lot. What is it from again? It's from Tea Time. And I use this kind of like, it's almost like a purpley brown. When you look at the spectrum that it's in, it's like a purpley brown, but it's just so nice for eye color, for like eye shading and eye shadow. I use it quite often. And I'm just going under the eye with a little bit of shading. I kind of want to give her a smoky eye, a little bit out more towards the edge here. Leave some of the highlighting that I did. So now her eyes do need a little bit of color, but I don't want to use white. So I'm going to use this blue and just bring it down. I'm going to bring down the opacity a bit, my brush size a bit. And I'm just going to use this blue for her inner eye. I'm going to have to do more shading with it. But for now, I'm just going to fill it in with this bluish color. It looks white, but it's not. It looks funny right now, but it won't when I'm done. Because I am going to go up here. Actually, I'll just grab one of these colors here for my skin tones. I'm gonna bring my opacity up, my brush size up a bit. And I'm going to mix in with that blue a little bit of that cream color. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it for now. Now, what color are we gonna do these eyes? These eyes scream green to me. A great palette for doing the eyes, let's zoom in on those eyes, is Roller Rink, because you have the dark green and then you have these accenting green colors. So when I do the eyes, I always lay down my darkest color first. So if I'm going to be using that green, you're going to want to lower your brush size, make sure your opacity is all the way up. For little details like this, it is, you can always use Technical pen. Bring down your brush size, bring up the opacity. For little details, I find Technical pen works really well. So just color in the eyes. There's like a little white thing here. I'm gonna color it in the color of the eye for now, but I have a feeling I'm gonna go back and probably use a white there to create a glare for the eye. So it looks very dark right now. It's looking dark. So I'm gonna go back to my airbrush. I'm gonna grab this brighter green. I'm gonna bring up the brush size a bit and make sure my opacity is all the way up. A little bit more. And I'm just gonna kind of kiss that bright green in there very gently. And then you see these eyes starting to come to life. Now I could use that green, but in this case, I want more of this type of green. So then I'm going to go to my laser tool. I'm going to bring down my brush size and I want my opacity all the way up. And I'm just going to, that's a bit too bright, so I'm just gonna bring that down a bit. And then this just adds, if you want to use it sparingly, but it does add a really nice hint and glimmer to the eye. But you don't want to overdo it. And then I'll go back to my airbrush, set this color back to normal. And you can kind of just layer that green. I zoom in and out quite a bit, as you can tell. And then I'm just gonna add some lines to the eyes. If you ever look at the eye, it has little lines, kind of how she drew the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to go to the black and white palette. And I'm going to grab my white and I'm going to fill in these little glared spots, because that's like the shine in the eye, right? When you get those glares in your eye. Just trying to find the right brush size here. I guess it's going to have to be 1. And you can add more if you want. Like down here, for instance, should probably be white. Okay, now you got the glare in the eye. She's starting to come to life and looking a little bit more realistic. So I'm just gonna actually grab my gray, deepen it up a bit, and I'm just gonna shade over the eye and on the sides a bit. Not using black, I'm using like darker gray. So then you get this kind of shadow that naturally comes from your lash line or your lashes. Now, for the inner parts of her eye, I always like to use either a deeper type of pink or a red. It depends on the portrait. So I'm going to try a couple. I think that's maybe a little bit dark. That's probably more the color. It's almost like a raspberry color I kind of go for these inner parts of the eye. And it's important to color them and not to leave them. I mean, it does add realism to the portrait because we all have that part of the eye. So I just go in, but I always add the little bit of like kind of light reflection, like if you will, or the different color of skin that kind of you see. It's not just one color, you kind of see that other And then if you want to blend it a little bit more, you can always color match and blend with the white, or the off-white, sorry. So then you kind of get these smoldery looking eyes. So let's go to our recently used colors here. I'm gonna grab this brown back out and I'm gonna bring that down a bit. And I just wanna go over this outer lash line. And then I also want to kind of lighten up here and add some highlight. And then after I usually do the eyes, I start highlighting a little bit more on my skin because I get to see her eyes come to life a little bit more. So it kind of gives me more of an idea of how I'm gonna do my skin a little bit more. Add a little bit more shadow. Okay, so now let's do the lips. Now I've been debating what color I'm gonna do these lips. Lots of times I like to do red, but in this case I'm not so sure. Actually, I'm just thinking about adding a couple of little eye highlights up here. Now for lips, I don't know if I want to do red. Got to think about it here for a minute. Thinking about just possibly keeping them natural. We're doing like a pink. I can't say that I'm a fan of that color. For her lips anyway. Maybe like a purple. Do something a little bit different, why not? So I'm just gonna color in the base color of her lip with this chosen color here. Now after I've put the color down, I'm gonna want to shade, so I'm gonna bring the opacity all the way up, and I'm going to add a little bit of depth to the lip, which would be throughout the side of the lip, the corners, even underneath, what I like to call the lip roll. And then what you're going to want to do is blend down any part of the lip that doesn't look normal. What I mean by look normal is if it's like sticking out or the lip shape doesn't look right. This is the time that kind of correct it, right? I'm gonna add the highlight back, so her lips look a little bit more even, and then I kind of blend it out over here too a little bit. Bring down the opacity and just kind of blend it out here. So our lips look a little bit more even now, minus this part here. Actually going to take out my technical pen here and zoom in really close. I'm gonna finish that lip line. I'm only going to do the top of the lip though. I'm not going, maybe I will. I'll try the bottom and see how it looks. Maybe just on that side. Just so it looks finished, because it was looking kind of choppy. Now that I picked that color, I'm also going to go to my airbrush, and I'm just gonna lighten up parts of the lip with the airbrush. I'm gonna bring down the opacity just a smidge here, and I'm just going to lighten up the inner part of the lip. And you can play with it and darken up a little bit too. By closing that lip off, it kind of gives you a guideline to work with while you're doing your shading too. When it's left open, it's kind of hard to gauge what you're doing because it doesn't look finished. When you close it up, it kind of gives you more of an idea of what you're doing or what you're trying to create with your lip. So I would flip the lip, and you can try different things. Some people like adding lines. I don't mind adding lines as long as they look okay. So you can add a couple lip lines if you want. Mainly the one in the middle is usually the one that gets noticed the most. And up here you can do some like up there, but I want to bring my opacity down. I don't want them dark. We can do some there. And then if you want, you can do some little couple lighter lines. And just kind of get those lines in there. And up here. And then you just kind of start getting like a realistic looking lip. And then I'm going to go to my laser tool. I'm going to bring down my opacity just a tad here. I find the opacity still too... Hold on. I want the glare of the shiny lip, but I don't want it to look... Okay, that's better. And if you want to do like a good highlight on up here, the laser works really good for that too. So what you would do is bring your opacity all the way down, your brush size up, go to your recently used colors, grab one of these skin tones, and you want your brush size all the way up. If you decide that you want more highlighting on your skin, it's a good way to finish off your skin and get the extra highlighting in there. And then you can also, of course, blend it out a tad, just on the rougher edges. So you get that nice highlight, but not to the point where it's taking over your picture. I know a lot of people use really harsh highlights. It can look good sometimes, I do agree, but it depends on what look you're going for. And here I'm just going for a very blended look. Want a natural skin tone. And go back here. Go down to my white, and I'm going to pick my laser again, brush opacity all the way up, and I just want to add a little bit more sparkle up the eye, just to kind of give like that almost like a wet look. Around the eye a little bit. And then I'm also going to go back to my airbrush. See, skin takes a while. I just checked my clock there. It's going on 50 minutes. I've been doing pretty much just the skin. but that's okay. Go to my recently used colors. I didn't want to rush because I'm recording. I wanted to actually show what I do. I'm just kind of adding the last little bits of highlights and stuff that I kind of finished my skin off with. This is actually fast skin, what I did here. Like this is actually pretty fast. And then go here, and I'm just gonna add a little bit of creasing to the lips. Not lots. Just like those natural crease lines that kind of occur. And after I add them, just gonna blend them down a bit so they don't look So I added them and then I blended them down a bit. That is kind of, I guess, the mantra for this video is blend, blend, blend. Blending is going to get you the look you want for skin more than if you just keep on adding colors. So like here I tried adding a lighter color and it didn't look good because it didn't belong to any of the colors over here. So instead, color match, try color matching around the areas that you're trying to change or blend, and you'll see a big difference in the outcome of your skin. So this is my skin so far. And if I wanted to fix up, this one little part is bugging me here. I just don't want the broken looking lip line here. Go to my airbrush. And I fix things as I go all the time. That never changes. It's pretty hard to get it perfect right off the bat. Lots of times I do something and then, you know, I notice something when I step away, and that's kind of what art, I think, is about, is examining your own work, trying to make it better. Okay. So there is the skin. I could fill in the eyebrows a little bit more, or what I could do is just maybe add a lighter color underneath to kind of make it look like they're just kind of shining underneath, like, because we all have little gaps in our eyebrows, right? So just kind of try to make them look maybe a little bit glary. You could highlight the eyebrow a little bit more if you want to. There's always more steps that you can do. Sometimes I highlight the cheekbone. Need to bring the opacity down. Sometimes I just highlight it gently like that, just to give it more structure. But her eyes are really kind of speaking now, eh? Like they look alive. And that's what I want, is I want the eyes to look alive. just gonna leave it. I like the way it looked. So let's maybe leave the skin for now. If we see any adjustments that we can make them as we go forward. Just shading the neck. I kind of ignored the neck quite a bit here. Just busy doing the skin. Okay, so I just kind of added, by using the Summer Essence, I added some shading and then tried to add like very light lines to the neck, like the neck is turning so you can see like a crease line, but I didn't go overboard. I just kind of left it very, very simple. So that's good. Now, what color do you want to do the hair? I'm thinking in my head, and I'm almost thinking of keeping it brown because she looks very sultry. She has very illuminated eyes. I'm almost thinking of just keeping it a brown. Or maybe a purple. Could do purple to kind of go with the lips. Yeah, let's do purple. So I'm gonna use the Fig palette and maybe some of the Goth Pastel. It's also a new palette, the Goth Pastel one. The Hour Mark, which is coming up, I'll fill in this hair, and at the hour mark, take a little bit of a break here, and then when I come back, we'll continue on and finish up this picture. All I'm doing is filling in the hairlines that are naturally given, just staying within the lines, and filling in my base color with the airbrush tool. My base color is kind of like a plummy, purpley color, but I'll probably add some pink and whatnot in here, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, I'm just filling it in. I like this hairstyle. It's like a choppy cut. Okay. Sometimes with these sketchy portraits or drawings that you color, sometimes, as you notice with the lip line or some of these hairlines, you'll go and close your own lines, and it creates good practice for other things as well. Okay, so there's the hair. I'm not done with the hair yet. When we get back, we'll finish up. I'm just gonna take a quick break here and stretch, and when we get back, I'll finish up the portrait.